Hello everyone, it's Mir, and Happy New Year! As you guys know, we recently had a second Street Fighter 6 beta, and this time I actually got to play online quite a lot, since the first time around I was actually quite busy recording footage for all kinds of videos that we released on the channel. So I figured I would make some sort of video review of the character that I played the most, which is Guile. I had to rewrite this script about a million times because the video was just way too long, so we decided to split it up into different chapters about different things. This is not a video series intended just for those who are interested in the character or are already playing him, but also for those who just cannot stand dealing with him, as hopefully the information presented here will help you understand him better, both in his strengths and shortcomings. Now, to finally start off with this video, you probably heard it everywhere on social media how Guile is commonly perceived as one of the strongest, if not the strongest character in the current beta build of Street Fighter 6. And one of the main reasons is that he's able to play very effectively to his strengths, namely chucking sonic booms at you, whittling you down with pokes and anti-airing you effectively. Although these are the three facets of his zoning, in this video I'll focus mostly on his sonic boom and his returning V-skill from Street Fighter 5, the Sonic Blade. Really, the main question I want to address in this video is why is this fireball zoning so good, and does it have any weakness in Street Fighter 6? So, to be really blunt from the get-go, the main reason why his sonic boom is so effective is that, well, fundamentally it's just the best projectile in the game. This has always been the case for Guile and one of his classic trademarks. There's a few reasons why this is. Let's go with the first one. The three different versions of the special move let Guile choose the speed of the projectile, just like every other character that has a fireball like this. And in Street Fighter 6 the difference is really quite noticeable, much more than any other character. Having a slow fireball on the light version makes it harder for opponents to neutral jump over, as well as giving Guile more time to approach the opponent and deal with the responses. On top of the obvious benefit to the zoning, it's also very valuable in block strings and combos, as you can get quite a lot of extra frame advantage as the projectiles travel slowly through the air. The heavy version, which is the fast one, instead serves the purpose of locking down opponents on the ground, making it harder for them to walk and block fireballs, as well as catching whatever it might be doing full screen, for example something like Jury Stocks or Jamie's Drinks. Mixing these two together, on top of the medium strength as well, can create a difficult pattern to navigate, often baiting unsafe jumps and screwing up with the timing on neutral jumps, parries, and even certain anti-projectile moves that require specific timing. Naturally, we also need to mention the overdrive version of his sonic boom. It is the fastest variant of his normal sonic boom and is exceptional in fireball wars, able to score a most valuable knockdown even when thrown out relatively late. As an extra feature in Street Fighter 6, all overdrive fireballs defeat non-overdrive ones, and although this helps characters that have a relatively weak fireball game to keep up with Guile, it can also work in his favor to effectively shut down certain responses they might come up with to deal with the zoning, like for example, Ryu's Denjin Adogen. On top of all of this, the recovery for the sonic boom is still the fastest out of any traditional fireball in Street Fighter 6 so far. Even though it clocks in at 40 frames, which is the slowest it's ever been, it's on par with the latest version of Street Fighter 5, it still allows Guile to block in a multitude of situations where others might have just gotten hit instead. In the specific case of Street Fighter 6, on top of jump-ins and projectile vulnerable moves, that's the classic, this makes it much harder to punish a sonic boom with drive impact, which is a universal response to people that throw too many fireballs. If the drive impact is mistimed or used carelessly in certain block strings, Guile is able to recover fast enough and block, or retaliate with his own drive impact, landing a big chunk of damage, and to add insult to injury, you even lose extra drive gauge for getting hit by a DI on top of the drive you already spent, making the attempt even more of a costly mistake. The fast recovery is also part of the reason why his fireballs are completely safe on block and have pretty good frame advantage on hit, making it a great tool for his block strings and combos as well. Naturally, the perfect sonic boom comes into play here, which is a unique mechanic that he has in Street Fighter 6, adding a little bit of damage and a precious extra frame to continue his combos after. But since it doesn't matter on block, it actually has almost no effect on his zoning, so we won't talk much about it. All these properties I've described neatly combine into a quite complete package that lets you put a hitbox on the screen without worrying too much about the consequences. Having said this, I now want to mention the sonic boom's most obvious drawback. It is a charge move. This means that you have to hold back for a certain time, which is about 45 frames, to be able to perform the move at all. This is important in ways that a lot of people don't immediately realize, especially if they don't play a charge character. Often when playing against people online, I realize that they don't seem to pay much attention to whether or not Guile would have charge to throw a Sonic Boom, and as such take risks when they really should have no reason to. After all, there's no reason to do an unsafe anti-projectile move if I have no chance to throw a Sonic Boom at all, right? Realizing that Guile has no charge also gives you a perfect opportunity to approach on the ground, knowing that you don't have to worry about plasma being thrown at you, narrowing down the amount of options he has to deal with your approach. If it weren't for this drawback, the Sonic Boom would be completely broken. Just imagine Guile walking towards you and pressuring with his normals, cancelling into Sonic Boom at will, and it's completely safe, sometimes it's plus, that'd be a nightmare. As I hinted at before, it doesn't end here, because it's not just the Sonic Boom, Guile's got more in his handy toolbox. And that is naturally the Sonic Blade, Guile's new special move. In case you're unfamiliar, this is a move from Street Fighter V, it's his V-Skill 1, and Guile throws out a sideways Sonic Boom that spins in place. Although it does have a hitbox, its main purpose is that you can then shoot another normal boom through the first to create an entirely new projectile, which is called the Sonic Cross, which is a multi-hitting meterless knockdown attack. Just like in Street Fighter V, you don't need any charge to perform this move. In Street Fighter 6, it is a quarter-circle back punch motion, as opposed to Street Fighter V where it's, a 2-button input like a V-skill. Unlike Street Fighter V, however, where you can keep charging while executing your V-skill, in Street Fighter 6 you have to break charge because of how the motion works. As compensation, to perform a Sonic Boom after, you only have to press forward and punch, with no charge requirement at all. This has the result of letting Guile effectively fight Fireball Wars against anyone, not only because the Sonic Cross itself is 2 hits, but also because the Sonic Blade provides a projectile shield in front of him, and even if you fail to throw a follow-up Sonic Boom before it is dissipated, you still get a normal one. Just like a Sonic Boom, it gets access to 3 different versions of this move, with different star-up and duration. Most notably, the heavy version has double the durability of the others and stays on screen for a really long time, even though the star-up is absolutely glacial. Guile can then just sit there and gauge the situation as he builds charge for his next Sonic Boom or Flash Kick, while still getting the opportunity of shooting a Sonic Cross if the opponent doesn't do anything about it. He even gets an overdrive version that behaves much like other overdrive fireballs, deleting any non-overdrive projectile it comes in contact with, and further empowering the Sonic Boom that is shot through it. The Sonic Cross itself amplifies all of the properties of a normal Sonic Boom. The projectile becomes wider, taller, more damaging, as well as scoring a knockdown. Again, remember that this doesn't cost any meter. The slow Sonic Boom becomes even slower, providing Guile with a very threatening tool to close the gap with the opponent, as he can just walk behind it, never really giving up the opportunity to block, as well as having a shield in front of him to stop the opponent from retaliating. The fast version, as you probably have already guessed, becomes even faster, making it extremely challenging to keep up with in Fireball Wars even from a full screen away. The overdrive Sonic Cross is extra fast, with all the added properties of an overdrive fireball to boot. If you decide to spend 4 bars on an overdrive Sonic Blade and an overdrive Sonic Boom, the results are quite hilarious. Again, this move looks very good on paper, especially because unlike the normal Sonic Boom, it doesn't require charge. But again, it does have some drawbacks. Namely, the biggest one is that Guile has to commit to tossing a Sonic Boom into the blade to get a Sonic Cross. Even though the Sonic Boom itself has fast recovery, it is not immune to jump-ins. And because of the nature of the situation, the window of time in which a Sonic Boom can be thrown can be easily pinpointed based on the version of the Sonic Blade that Guile used. The light version is too fast to be reacted to with a jump, but also offers the least amount of time for Guile to follow up on it. Jumping in here could land you some fat damage, but Guile can use it to bait and anti-air you with a Flash Kick instead, as he spent his time charging rather than committing to the Sonic Cross. The medium and heavy version, however, are way too slow to be used willy-nilly when the opponent is close, as you can jump over them for free and deck Guile straight in the teeth with an attack. Think of Akuma's or Kage's Red Fireball, the heavier version having longer startup. This will let you reverse the situation in your favor and have an opportunity to get Guile in the corner, or at least pressure him on a knockdown. However, it is important to say that Guile isn't forced to use the Sonic Blade, and often can hold his own in certain matchups even with little to no use of it, especially if the opponent doesn't have a fireball that they can engage Guile with. So far, I painted quite a rosy picture of Guile's zoning capabilities in Street Fighter 6, and this is without even really talking about his amazing normal attacks and his anti-airs. As I've hinted at before, many of the universal mechanics like parry and drive impact, while quite effective against other fireball characters, don't shine as much against Guile himself, because of the unique properties of his Sonic Booms. Even level 1 supers lost their projectile invulnerability in the last beta, as part of some minor balance changes to the game, so that makes it even harder to contest. However, that doesn't mean that they are useless. In fact, clever implementation of these mechanics in your anti-zoning gameplay is fundamental to be able to get the upper hand. Even closing the gap just a little bit can put Guile in a situation where throwing fireballs is suddenly much more dangerous. It seems to me that zoning has been significantly redesigned for Street Fighter 6, at least in Guile's case. Since there is no immediate risk to lose health to chip damage, as well as more overall emphasis on less offensive play in Street Fighter 6, zoners are expected to keep you in neutral for longer, where they can whittle down your drive meter instead of your health by making you block projectiles. That forces you to use parry or engage in a fireball war with them. Because of this, their tools have to be more effective in narrowing down the amount of options you have, so that their long-range play is more threatening. This is also why Guile has access to his Sonic Cross, especially the very slow one, which lets him approach someone who's becoming too complacent and is just enduring Guile's relentless zoning from afar by parrying and whatnot, allowing him to push a mix-up and start some offense, which also helps promote interaction rather than just defensive play. There's a good amount of characters in the beta that don't actually have very strong anti-fireball options, especially when they also enjoy using moves like Drive Rush to close the gap and start their offense, which is kinda linear and on the ground. As such, they naturally struggle a bit against Guile, who's very good at controlling the mid and long range, limiting their options. However, we also have an example of a character with a variety of anti-fireball moves that in my experience can be quite troublesome for Guile, and that is Kimberly. Her own tools can be tricky to deal with, often requiring you to play in ways that make you lose charge. Like for example, you have to approach and block to be able to effectively punish her command slide, or in many situations you have to stand up to block overheads during mix-up situations on block, which make you lose down charge. And this can make the matchup quite uncomfortable, especially if you get caught in the blender. Since chucking fireballs is not very effective, as I mentioned, Kimberly is able to shut predictable use of those with her command slide or the run slide. I've always felt that she has a good time playing against Guile as opposed to everyone else in the beta so far. Even though I do believe Guile is one of the two best characters in this beta version of the game, I think a big part of his viability will come down to these kind of matchups, especially once the game is fully released with access to the entire roster. Right now, he has a good experience against most of the cast, but who knows if that will hold for much longer. More characters with powerful anti-fireball tools might show up and finally give him a run for his money when the game is fully released. So what's your opinion on the matter? Do you guys think Guile's fireball zoning is too good? Let me know in the comment section below. I'm interested to hear your take on this. As mentioned before, this isn't the last you'll hear from me, or about Guile for that matter. There's still plenty to break down about this character, and I hope this video was informative for everyone, Guile hater or enjoyer alike. Subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our future content, and I'll see you all next time. Bye bye!